Hey guys, welcome to another video. My name's Jade. I'm a first year dental student at the University of Bristol and welcome to another revision video. If you're new here, don't forget to like and subscribe, but I know that exams are right around the corner and you've got a few months left before GCSEs or A-levels, but in this video I'll be giving you GCSE students some advice on how to maximise your chances on getting as many 8s and 9s or A stars as possible. I'll be talking about what I did, my experiences and everything like that. You'll see timestamps in the description, so feel free to skip around the video to whatever section suits you most. And a while ago at the start of my channel I actually made a video similar to this one and I'll put it somewhere on the screen, and after watching this video then you can go watch that, and you can also find useful advice from that video which will also help you. So for some backstory, I'm now in my first year at university and did GCSEs a while ago. I managed to get the equivalent of 10 A stars, which I was very happy about. I know a lot of you have done mocks, so for my mocks I started revising actually from the beginning of year 11, and even if you're in year 10 or year 11 and you haven't started revising yet, even if you have done mocks, it's still completely okay and you still have loads of time to get better. My mocks were in January, so that's why I started revising in year 11, and to be honest with you, in year 10 I really didn't do as well as I'd wanted, so I really needed to step it up in year 11, which is what I did, and I started putting hours into my work every day, and I just started trying a lot harder, which improved my results. And I'd say that the amount of revision you should aim to do is based on what grades you want to achieve and how hard you need to work. So in year 10 I was getting quite low numbers. I didn't really get A's or A stars at all, but at the beginning of year 11 I started to see my improvement slowly but gradually, and at the end I was getting consistent 8s and 9s. And throughout the video I'll be explaining how I managed to do this and my revision techniques and what I exactly did, and hopefully a lot of students watching this will be able to follow it in the last few months before their exams. Now what I'm saying won't work for everyone, but it definitely worked for me, and so it's really important that you take my advice into consideration and not just listen to it and completely follow it, because everyone is different and everyone's unique. So just take my words into consideration and adapt it to your learning style. My first point I want to talk about is about understanding rather than memorizing, and the first fundamental part of learning is to understand what you're actually looking at. The only way to do well in an exam is to actively recall and regurgitate all this information and all these new facts that you've learned from these textbooks, as well as all the content you've learned, the extra information, the exam technique, and the application to loads of questions. So there is quite a lot into it, but the first step you need to do is understand. I'll soon be making a video on how to actually learn and understand content, but for the basics of it, you want to get to a point in your learning where you're able to teach any of the concepts or content that you've learned to someone who's a lot younger than you, for example 5 years old. You should be able to simplify everything you've learned in a few sentences and make it very easy to understand, and that's when you really know that you've learned the content. After you've understood it, you don't really need to try as hard to memorize it, as it sort of just sinks in your brain. By testing yourself and teaching others like this, it really helps your brain to actively recall and memorize all this information subconsciously. So when you're in the exam and you're actually answering the questions, you don't really have to think about what you're writing, as you understand what the question wants, and then you can explain your answer nicely in a way where it includes all the keywords and information that is needed to get the marks. By testing yourself and continuously asking yourself questions, this is a great way of active recall, where you're actively testing your own brain and your own knowledge, and you're making it hard for you to recall these facts. So every time you read something, let's say a few paragraphs, you want to go back a bit and then test yourself again. So ask yourself questions about it, like what have I just read? Why is it important? How is this relevant to what I'm learning about? And what are the keywords for this topic? And you can ask yourself so many questions like this, and it brings you on to so many more questions, which further enhances your understanding. So let's say you're doing GCSE biology and you're learning about speciation. So after reading a few pages in the textbook, you might ask yourself, what is speciation? And then you'd say something along the lines of, speciation is the process where a population evolves into two separate species or more, or something like that. My biology is a bit dodgy at the moment. And then this brings you on to ask, well, you've mentioned two species, so what is a species? And a species is a population where two members of this population can reproduce to produce fertile offspring. This then carries on and keeps repeating itself until you find something you can't really answer, and that's when you're learning. By finding out what you don't understand and what you can't teach to others is really the key to learning and what we all need to do. My second point is about revision timetables, and you don't need to create a vigorous revision timetable that plans every hour of every day. I really don't believe in this, as you'll get burnt out so easily, and it's really important that you structure revision, but not in this way where you're forcing yourself to do topics and work which you hate. It makes revision such a difficult chore and you'll really not enjoy it, and it's really not the most efficient way to revise effectively. Now I'm not saying not to create a revision timetable. I believe revision timetables are a really good way to revise and structure revision, as it allows you to see what topics you need to improve on and how many times you've gone through each topic. A lot of people use these revision timetables, including myself, but I plan it out in a sort of different way which I've learnt from creators like Abdaal, where I use a retrospective revision timetable timetable, which I'll be showing now. As you can see, I have this revision timetable here, but I don't plan my hours or individual days or even weeks to my exam, as I know that's not a very good way that I'd like to revise. Instead, I use these big topics and split them up into smaller topics that we learn about. So here's anatomy and all the subtopics, and there's biochemistry and all the little ones, and physiology and pharmacology. And I haven't really started on this, but I'm going to very soon, as my exams are also coming up. Now on the side you can see numbers from 1 to 7. It doesn't really matter what number I go up to, but I just put 7 there as it seems like a nice number. So let's say I went through the development of the head and neck. Let's say I went through this a while ago, so let's say the 20th of February 2022, and then I'd ask myself, how well did I do on this? Did I remember everything? Did I remember some things, or did I really not understand? And let's say I really didn't understand it, so I'd go to the fill button here and then highlight it in red, and this is a very good indicator of when I need to complete it again. So instead of using a normal revision timetable where you sort of go through a topic and then you don't come back to it again, I can see what topic I need to work on and then I can come back to it. So next time when I'm going through revision, I can see that, oh, this is red a few days ago, so I need to go through it again soon so I can turn it into like an amber or a green even. So now let's say it's been a few days after and I went through this topic again, so it's the 23rd of February 2022 now, and I went through this topic and I asked myself a lot of questions again using active recall methods, and it's been actually turned to an amber color, so it's gotten slightly better and I can see my improvement over time. Now I want to wait for a longer period until I go back over this topic again. So let's say I went back over it, say on the 1st of March, 0322. Okay, and I fill this in and it actually turned to a green now. So this is a very good topic and I'm happy with it, and I don't need to come back to this for a while as I have remembered it and using active recall and all the good revision methods I've learned. And then you basically do this for all your topics every single time you go through it, and you can really easily plan and track your revision and make it in a fun and easy way to learn. Also, a side note, you shouldn't compare yourself to other people and what they're doing. A lot of people will say that they might be revising hours each day, or even that they've been revising since the start of year 11 or whatever. Don't even listen to how much other people revise, because they might be lying, and to be honest, it doesn't really matter. You should only compare yourself with you in your past and just try to improve on whatever you've done. So work at your own reasonable pace and only care about yourself, because in the exam it's only you that matters. You're not competing with anyone else, you're just trying to focus on yourself and focus on what you know. My third point is to look back at times where you've done well. So if you've had any exams where you've done really well, I'd look back at those methods that you used to revise and what topics they are, and figure out how you did that and why you think you did so well. If you haven't experienced a time like that yet, you still have loads of time, don't worry, before exams, so you can maybe be able to do your own past papers, do your own revision, and then test yourself and see how well you do. Try out a wide range of revision resources and methods like flashcards, like Quizlet, Anki, writing notes, reading textbooks, answering questions from other people, teaching people. You can literally turn everything into revision, and you just need to find your best way of learning. You shouldn't feel demotivated at all that exams are a few months away and you're not at where you want to be. You still have so much time to improve, and I can't stress that enough. Even 1 month is a long enough time to improve drastically, especially in GCSE. To motivate yourself, I always like to think about how nice it would be just to collect my results and be completely happy with what I get. Imagine yourself opening that GCSE certificate letter and seeing all your grades and all your results, and just being happy that all your hard work paid off. And then once that happens, come back to this video and thank me. This sort of ties in with my next point, and it's to stop procrastinating, at least for these last few months. I made a video on procrastination a few weeks ago, and it basically explains loads of methods which you can stop and help yourself. Especially for GCSEs, you don't have to study every day, or you don't have to do tremendous amounts of work every day to do very well. Instead of studying harder, try studying smarter. So instead of just reading notes for hours on end, you want to try doing a practice paper for maybe an hour, and this 1 hour you can work really hard, which will really benefit you and improve your grades much more than if you just read your notes again. When you're struggling to start, or when you're thinking about procrastinating, I always like to think of this quote by Abdaal, and it's something like, the best time to plant a tree was yesterday and the next best time is now. So if you've been putting off revision and you're feeling unmotivated, I want you to gain your motivation back and gain your self-discipline back and really start trying harder. And you should stop thinking about the past and what you did and focus on the present and the future. Okay, so my next point is to focus on your weak areas and do not neglect them at all. If you're struggling to learn any content, that's very good, as you know what you need to improve. And if you improve that, then your grades will improve. When you're struggling, that's when you know you're doing something right. My father always used to tell me that when he was younger and in school, everything that he neglected in exams and everything that he thought was too hard so he didn't learn actually came up in the exams. He said everything you don't know will come up, and although I do not 100% agree with this quote, I do somewhat agree with the fundamental part of it. I do 100% agree with going into the mindset that you have to work on your weak areas, as it not only changes what you know but also changes your confidence. So when you go into the exam, you're not only like mentally smarter, I guess, but you're also mentally more confident into doing exams. And confidence actually plays a big role when answering questions, as you need to know and you need to be sure about what you're writing about, and you need to try and explain it as confidently as possible. But you'll also gain confidence in your exams and when you're writing your answers, and confidence actually goes a long way when you're in the exam hall. Good way to structure your revision and to not neglect your areas is to look back at your past papers or just do it from memory and write down all the topics that you enjoy the most, as the topics you enjoy the most or subjects you enjoy are often the ones that you're best at. So write down a list of everything from number 1 to number 10 depending on how many GCSEs you're doing, and write down all the individual topics in that order as well. So number 1 should be your topic that you're most comfortable with, and the last one should be the one that you're weakest at. Now when doing revision, you always have to start with the bottom one. That's the trick to this. You should never start with the top one, otherwise you'll never get to the bottom one, and then you'll feel like you didn't improve as you haven't focused on your weak areas. By focusing on what you know the least, you have the most chance to improve. And in these few months to exams, you're trying to find as many weaknesses as you can, which will help you improve the most in terms of grades, and it will help you improve the most in terms of content understanding. My next point is about loads of websites, resources, and things that you can use on the internet. There are so many. I'll put some on the screen right now, like Exam Solutions, Physics and Maths Tutor, CGP textbooks, all of this stuff that you can find. And everything is highly condensed, and I'll put YouTubers as well on the screen and maybe in the description, so go check that out as well. The internet and resources such as YouTube are such an amazing way to learn, as you're learning it in more than one way because everyone teaches in a different style, and you may be able to understand something if someone else teaches it to you. It's also a lot easier to do this and to learn from it, as it's more enjoyable than reading textbooks all day or answering past paper questions all day. So there we go, there are my top tips for GCSE students, and I'm wishing everyone who sees this the best of luck in their exams. Please give tips to each other in the comments, ask as many questions as you want, ask anything you want, and I will try to reply to all of them. Be supportive, help one another, and remember that everyone is in this together. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Please consider liking the video and subscribing. I hope to see you again, but even if I don't, I'm wishing everyone who sees this the best of luck in everything and anything you choose to do. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.